The security camera captured everything. A pregnant woman, 8 months along, walking carefully down icy front steps. Her husband behind her, not beside her, behind, and then his foot moved forward. Deliberate, calculated. He kicked her ankle out from under her. She fell hard, face first onto the frozen stone, and he just stood there, watching, checking his phone, counting the seconds. 30 seconds passed before he called for help. But here's the part that changes everything. He thought he erased the footage. He thought no one would ever know what really happened that night. He was wrong. What you're about to hear is the true story of Caroline Ashworth, a woman who woke up in a hospital bed with no memory of how she got there. A woman whose husband looked her in the eyes and said she slipped. A woman who discovered that the man she loved had been planning her death for months. The life insurance policy. The other pregnant woman. The water he poured on those steps 2 hours before she walked on them. This story will shock you. It will break your heart. And by the end, it will remind you why the truth always finds a way out. So stay with me, because the moment Caroline saw that security footage for the first time, that's when everything changed. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens in that courtroom. This is pregnant wife slipped on ice, CEO husband poured. Security footage made judge. Give her everything. Let's begin. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Cold, clinical, wrong. Mrs. Ashworth, can you hear me? You've been in an accident. Carolyn opened her eyes. White ceiling tiles, the sharp smell of antiseptic, beeping machines somewhere to her left. Her hand moved instinctively to her belly. Round, firm, still there. The baby kicked. Relief flooded through her like warm water. Thank God. Thank God. Mrs. Ashworth? A nurse leaned over her, kind face, tired eyes. You're at Greenwich Memorial Hospital. You had a fall. Do you remember? A fall. The words floated through her foggy mind. She tried to reach for the memory but found only fragments. Cold air, darkness, the sensation of losing her footing. Then nothing. My baby, Caroline whispered. Her throat felt like sandpaper. Your baby is fine. Strong heartbeat. No signs of distress. The nurse smiled. You protected her well when you fell. Took most of the impact on your side. Her, Carolyn had known for 3 months now. A daughter. She was going to have a daughter. Where's my husband? Right here, sweetheart. Bennett appeared at her bedside. Navy cashmere sweater, gray slacks, hair perfectly styled even at whatever hour this was. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine, not rushed to a hospital in an emergency. His hand covered hers. Cold. His hands were always cold. You scared me, he said. His voice was soft, concerned, but his eyes, something wrong in them, flat, watchful, like he was studying her reaction instead of feeling his own. What happened? Caroline asked. You slipped on the ice, on the front steps. I found you unconscious. Bennett squeezed her hand. The doctors say you are lucky. 8 months pregnant, and you managed to fall without hurting the baby. My brave girl. 8 months pregnant. 32 years old, married for 5 years to the founder and CEO of Ashworth Technologies, living in a $12 million estate in Connecticut. On paper, Caroline Ashworth had everything. So why did something feel so wrong? I don't remember, she said. That's normal. The nurse adjusted Caroline's IV. Head trauma can cause short-term memory loss. It should come back in pieces. Bennett nodded, serious, supportive. Don't strain yourself, sweetheart. The important thing is you're safe. You're both safe. But he'd asked about her memory before asking if she was in pain, before asking about the baby. His first question had been, what do you remember? Carolyn pushed the thought away. She was being paranoid. Pregnancy hormones. Stress. Bennett loved her. He'd always taken care of her. Hadn't he? The doctor arrived, a woman in her 40s with graying hair and steady hands. Dr. Rebecca Townsend. She'd been Caroline's obstetrician for the entire pregnancy. Well, Mrs. Ashworth, you gave us quite a scare. Our Townsend reviewed the chart. Bruising on your right hip, shoulder, and wrist. Minor head contusion, but the baby looks perfect. Heartbeat strong, movement normal. You are both very fortunate. When can she come home? Bennett asked. Tomorrow, if everything stays stable overnight. Dr. Townsend made a note. But I want to see her in my office in 2 weeks for a follow-up. And bed rest for at least a week. No stress, no exertion. Bennett nodded. I'll make sure she follows orders. Something in his tone, like a command, not a promise. Like she was a task to be managed. Stop it, Caroline told herself. He's worried about you, that's all. But the fragments of memory kept surfacing. Cold air on her face. Bennett's voice behind her. Not ahead of her. Behind. The sensation of something hitting her ankle before she fell. No, that couldn't be right. She must have imagined it. I need to use the bathroom, she said. Bennett helped her stand, held her arm as she shuffled to the small bathroom attached to her room. His grip was firm, too firm, like he was steering her instead of supporting her. In the bathroom, Carolyn stared at herself in the mirror. Pale face, dark circles under blue eyes, blonde hair tangled and limp. She looked like a stranger. Her hand went to her belly again. The baby shifted. Active. Alive. I'll keep you safe, Carolyn whispered. I promise. She didn't know why she said it, didn't know what she was promising to protect her daughter from, but the words felt necessary, essential. When she came out, Bennett was on his phone. He ended the call quickly. Too quickly. Work? Carolyn asked. Always work. He smiled, that charming smile that had won her over 6 years ago. Nothing you need to worry about. Let's get you back to bed. She let him guide her, settled against the pillows, closed her eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. The memory kept flickering. Bennett's voice, not calling her name, not warning her about the ice, just his voice behind her, and then the sensation of falling, falling. At 3 a.m, Caroline woke with a start. Bennett was asleep in the chair beside her bed. His phone was on the tray table. Charging, her phone. Where was her phone? Bennett, she said softly. He stirred. What is it? Are you in pain? My phone, I want to check my messages. He rubbed his eyes. Your phone was damaged in the fall, screen shattered. I'll get you a new one tomorrow. Damaged in the fall, but Caroline remembered now. Her phone had been charging in the kitchen when she left the house. She hadn't taken it with her. She'd been in a hurry. Bennett had said they needed something from the mall. She'd gone out to get it, so how had her phone been damaged? Try to sleep, Bennett said. You need rest. She nodded, closed her eyes, pretended to drift off, but her mind was racing. Pieces that didn't fit, details that contradicted each other, the feeling of something hitting her ankle. Bennett's voice behind her. Her phone damaged even though she hadn't been carrying it. Maybe she was confused. The doctor had said head trauma could affect memory. Maybe she was mixing things up, creating false memories. Or maybe she was finally seeing clearly for the first time in 5 years. Bennett brought her home the next afternoon. The estate looked like a Christmas card. Fresh snow on the grounds, wreaths on every window, a 20-foot tree visible through the great room windows, decorated by the professional team Bennett hired every year. Carolyn had always loved Christmas at the house. This year, the decorations felt like set dressing. Pretty on the outside, empty underneath. Welcome home, Mrs. Ashworth. Maria, the housekeeper, met them at the door, 53 years old, had worked for the Ashworths since before Bennett inherited the company. Her smile was warm, but her eyes flickered to Bennett and then away. Nervous. I made your favorite soup, Maria said. It's warming on the stove. Thank you, Maria. Carolyn let Bennett guide her through the foyer. Marble floors, vaulted ceilings, a staircase that swept upward like something from a fairy tale. Their bedroom was on the second floor. Bennett had insisted on carrying her up the stairs, playing the devoted husband. She'd felt like a prop in his performance. Now she lay in their California king bed, surrounded by Egyptian cotton and designer throw pillows, and felt more alone than she ever had in her life. Bennett sat beside her, held her hand. I was so scared, he said, when I found you on the steps, not moving. All that blood. Blood. She touched her head. The bandage was small, a minor cut, the doctors had said. There was a lot of blood? Head wounds bleed heavily, you know that. Bennett stroked her hair. I thought I'd lost you. Both of you." His eyes were moist, his voice cracked slightly. Anyone watching would see a husband devastated by his wife's close call. So why did Caroline feel like she was watching a play? "I need to sleep," she said. "Of course," he kissed her forehead. "I'll be in my study if you need anything. Maria will bring your soup." He left. The door clicked shut. Caroline waited until his footsteps faded down the hall. Then she got out of bed. Her body ached. Every movement sent pain shooting through her hip and shoulder. But she needed to move, needed to think, needed to understand why every instinct she had was screaming that something was very wrong. She walked to the window, looked down at the front of the house, the steps where she'd fallen. From here, she could see them clearly. Stone steps, 6 of them, leading from the circular driveway to the front door. They looked dry now. The afternoon sun had melted any ice. But last night they'd been slick. Dangerous, hadn't they? Caroline pressed her hand to the glass. Cold seeped through. The baby kicked. "I know," she whispered. "Something's wrong. I feel it too." That night she couldn't sleep. Bennett lay beside her, breathing evenly, the perfect picture of a husband at rest. But Caroline's mind wouldn't stop turning. At 2 in the morning she slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him. Her feet were silent on the hardwood floors. Bennett's study was at the end of the hall. The door was usually locked, but tonight a sliver of light showed beneath it. She must have left it open. Or Maria had been cleaning. Caroline pushed the door open. The study was dark except for the glow of Bennett's laptop. He'd left it open on his desk. The screensaver hadn't activated yet. She could see his email. She shouldn't look. It was his private correspondence. But something pulled her forward. Something stronger than guilt or propriety. The email at the top of his inbox was unread. Subject line, "E, the problem is handled." Sender, Vivian Mercer. Vivian, Bennett's executive assistant. Young, bright, always so friendly at company events. Always finding reasons to touch Bennett's arm or laugh at his jokes. Caroline's hand trembled as she clicked the email. The message was short. Just 2 lines. "Good. Make sure she doesn't remember anything. The insurance paperwork is ready on your end." Caroline read it twice. 3 times, the words didn't change. Insurance paperwork. Make sure she doesn't remember. The baby kicked hard, urgent, warning. Caroline closed the laptop, backed out of the study, made her way back to the bedroom on shaking legs. Bennett was still asleep, still peaceful, still her husband. The man who'd asked what she remembered before asking if she was okay. The man whose phone had been ready and waiting when she wanted hers. The man whose first instinct, after finding his pregnant wife unconscious on ice, had apparently been to email his assistant about insurance paperwork. Carolyn lay down, pulled the covers to her chin, stared at the ceiling. She didn't sleep that night, not for a single minute, because she finally understood. The fragments of memory, the wrong details, the feeling that had been growing for months, maybe years. She wasn't safe in this house. She wasn't safe with her husband. And whatever had happened on those front steps, it hadn't been an accident. Morning light streamed through the bedroom windows. Carolyn kept her eyes closed, listened. The shower running in the master bathroom. Bennett getting ready for work. The familiar sounds of his routine. Electric razor, Italian cologne, the click of his watch clasp. She'd memorized these sounds over 5 years of marriage. Once they'd been comforting. Evidence of stability. Now they felt like a countdown. The shower stopped. The bathroom door opened. "You're awake," Bennett's voice. Neutral, observing. Carolyn opened her eyes. He stood in the doorway, towel around his waist. At 38, he still looked like the man she'd married. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair silvering at the temples. Handsome in that polished, professional way that photographed well for business magazines. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Sore, tired." "You should rest today. I've told Maria to keep the house quiet." He moved to his closet, selected a suit, navy blue, his power color. "I have meetings downtown, but I'll be home for dinner." "Bennett?" He turned. "Last night I woke up and you weren't in bed." A flicker in his eyes, so fast she almost missed it. "I was in my study. Couldn't sleep. Didn't want to disturb you." "You left your laptop open." The flicker again, longer this time. Then the mask settled back into place. Work emails, you know how it is. The Asian markets never stop. He finished dressing, kissed her forehead, cold lips on her skin. Rest, he said. I mean it. No stress. The bedroom door closed. His footsteps retreated. A few minutes later, the front door, the sound of his car starting in the circular drive. Only then did Caroline exhale. She lay in bed another hour, not sleeping, thinking. The email played on repeat in her mind. Make sure she doesn't remember. The insurance paperwork is ready. What did it mean? What was she not supposed to remember? Finally, she got up. Moving slowly, painfully, she made her way downstairs. The house was quiet. Maria was somewhere in the back, folding laundry. The other staff wouldn't arrive until later. 23 rooms, $12 million, security cameras on every entrance. This was her home, her castle. So why did it feel like a prison? Carolyn went to the security panel by the kitchen, a sleek touchscreen that controlled the entire system. Cameras, alarms, door locks, all of it monitored and recorded. She wanted to see the footage from the night she fell, wanted to see exactly what had happened, how she'd slipped, where Bennett had been when he found her. The screen prompted for a password. She tried their anniversary, 0644. Access denied. Their wedding year, 2019. Access denied. Bennett's birthday, his mother's birthday, the last 4 digits of their phone number. Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. 3 more failed attempts and the system locked. A message appeared. Administrator, access required. Contact system owner. The system owner was Bennett. Carolyn stared at the screen. In 5 years of marriage, she'd never known the security password. She'd never asked. Why would she? Bennett handled security. He handled everything. She'd thought it was because he was protective, because he wanted to keep her safe. Now she wondered if it was because he wanted to keep her controlled. Her phone. She needed her phone, not the shattered one Bennett claimed had been damaged. Her actual phone, the one she'd left charging in the kitchen. She searched the kitchen. The counter where she always left it to charge was empty. The drawer where they kept backup chargers. Empty. The junk drawer. The pantry. The mudroom. No phone. Mrs. Ashworth? Carolyn spun. Maria stood in the doorway, laundry basket in her arms. Are you looking for something? My phone. The one that was charging here before my accident. Maria's face went carefully blank. The expression of someone who knew something, but had been told not to share it. Mr. Ashworth took it, Maria said, to get the screen repaired. The screen wasn't cracked. I left it here, in the kitchen. I didn't have it when I fell. Maria's eyes dropped to the floor. I only know what Mr. Ashworth told me. She left without another word. Carolyn stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by granite countertops and professional appliances and everything money could buy. Everything except the truth. She called her mother that afternoon, used the landline in the living room, one of the few phones in the house that wasn't connected to Bennett's system. Hello? Dorothy Brennan's voice, warm, worried. Carrie, is that you? Hi, Mom. Thank God. Bennett called yesterday to tell me about your fall, but he said you needed rest and couldn't take calls. I've been worried sick. How are you feeling? How's the baby? Bennett had screened her calls. Of course he had. Mom, I need to tell you something. Something happened and I don't know what to do. Dorothy listened. She'd always been a good listener. 38 years as a nurse had taught her when to speak and when to stay silent. She stayed silent now while Caroline told her everything. The fragments of memory, the email, the security system, the missing phone. When Caroline finished, there was a long pause. Carrie, honey, are you safe? The question hit her like a physical blow. Such a simple question, such a complicated answer. I don't know, she whispered. Mom, I don't know. Then you need to leave. Come home tonight. I can't just leave. I don't have access to money. I don't have my phone. Bennett controls everything. Then I'll come get you right now. I'll drive up and... No. Caroline looked around the room. The walls felt like they were listening. He can't know I'm suspicious. If he knows I saw that email, if he knows I'm asking questions, Mom, I think he did something to me. I think he tried to hurt me. If he knows I'm figuring it out, then we need proof. Dorothy's voice went hard. The voice she'd used when dealing with difficult doctors or abusive family members at the hospital. Evidence. Something that can't be denied or explained away. The security footage, but I can't access it. The system requires his password. Is there anyone else who might have it? Staff? A security company? Carolyn thought. The security system was managed by Bennett's head of household security, a man named Graham Finley, former military. He'd worked for the Ashworths for 6 years. Reported directly to Bennett. There might be someone, she said, but I don't know if I can trust him. Find out. Carefully. And Carrie? Yes? Don't let Bennett know anything has changed. Act normal. Be the wife he expects. Can you do that? Carolyn looked at the Christmas tree, the imported ornaments, the perfect life she'd built with a man who might be trying to kill her. I've been acting for 5 years, Mom. What's a few more days? Itten. That night, Bennett came home at 7, brought flowers, white roses, her favorite, or at least the favorite he'd decided she should have. For my brave girl, he said. Kissed her cheek. How are you feeling? Better. Maria's soup helped. Good. I've arranged for you to see Dr. Townsend next week for a follow-up. He settled onto the couch beside her. Close. Too close. We need to make sure you and the baby are both healthy. Bennett. The night I fell. What time did you find me? His hand paused on her knee, just for a moment. Round 7. Why? I'm trying to remember, trying to piece it together. The doctor said my memory might come back. Don't strain yourself. His voice was light, but his eyes had sharpened. You fell on the ice. I found you. Called an ambulance. That's all there is to it. But how did I fall? I've walked those steps hundreds of times, even in winter. I'm always careful. Accidents happen, Caroline. A hint of impatience now. You were 8 months pregnant. Off balance. It was icy. You slipped. It's not complicated. She nodded, dropped the subject, filed away the irritation in his voice, the way his hand had tightened on her knee when she asked about the timing. After dinner, Bennett went to his study, locked the door this time. Caroline heard the click from the hallway. She went to their bedroom, lay in the dark, waited. At 11, Bennett came to bed, fell asleep within minutes, his breathing deep and even. At midnight, Caroline was still awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering, the morning before her fall. They'd been in the kitchen, Bennett drinking coffee, reading something on his phone. Have you called your lawyer yet? He'd asked. My lawyer? About updating your will. We discussed it last month. With the baby coming, we should make sure everything is in order, just in case. Just in case something happens during delivery. That's what he'd said. She'd laughed. Nothing's going to happen. I'm healthy. The baby's healthy. His response, you never know. At the time, she thought he was being practical, responsible, the kind of planning a successful CEO would naturally consider. Now those words echoed differently. You never know, just in case. Had he been planning this for months, preparing for the moment when his pregnant wife would have an unfortunate accident, making sure the paperwork was in order before he made his move? The baby kicked, hard, insistent. Carolyn pressed her hand to her belly. I know, she whispered. I know something's wrong, and I'm going to find out exactly what. 2 days later, Caroline made her move. Bennett left for work at 8. Maria arrived at 9. At 10:30, Caroline told Maria she was going to rest upstairs and asked not to be disturbed. Instead, she went to Bennett's study. The door was locked, but she'd watched Maria unlock it to clean. The key was kept in the kitchen drawer under the takeout menus, a hiding spot so obvious that Bennett had probably thought no one would bother to look there. She was right. The key fit perfectly. Bennett's study smelled like him, leather and cedar and that Italian cologne. His desk was immaculate, everything in its place. She went straight to his laptop, password protected. Of course, she tried the same combinations she tried on the security panel. Anniversary, birthdays, phone numbers, all failed. Then she tried something else. His mother's maiden name, Harrington, combined with the year his father died. 2008. Harrington, 2008. The laptop unlocked. Caroline's hands trembled as she navigated to his email. Hundreds of messages, business correspondence, meeting requests, nothing that jumped out. She searched for Vivian Mercer, dozens of results, work emails about schedules and meetings, nothing unusual. But then she refined the search, added the word insurance. One result, the email she'd seen before. The problem is handled. Make sure she doesn't remember. The insurance paperwork is ready on your end. She clicked to see the full thread. The original message was from Bennett, sent 3 hours after her accident. She fell, unconscious. At the hospital now. Doctors say she'll be fine. Might have memory issues from the head injury. Move forward with the paperwork. Make sure everything is in place before she comes home. Vivian's response. Understood. I'll have the documents ready for signature tomorrow. What about the security footage? Bennett's reply. I've handled it. The backup drives are wiped. No one will ever know. Caroline read the exchange 3 times, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The backup drives are wiped. No one will ever know. Know what? What had been on those security cameras that Bennett needed to destroy? She searched more, found references to an insurance policy she'd never seen. $12 million, her name on it. Beneficiary, Bennett Ashworth. $12 million if she died. Caroline closed the laptop, walked out of the study, locked the door behind her, replaced the key in the kitchen drawer. Then she went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and didn't move for a very long time. The baby kicked, demanding attention, demanding action. I know, Caroline said. I know what I have to do. She picked up the landline, dialed her mother's number. Mom, I need to come home tonight. Can you pick me up somewhere Bennett won't think to look? Name the place. The coffee shop on Main Street. The one we used to go to when I was in high school. 9 p.m. I'll be there. Carolyn hung up, looked around the bedroom she'd shared with her husband for 5 years. The Egyptian cotton sheets, the designer furniture, the walk-in closet full of clothes Bennett had chosen for her. She was leaving with nothing. No money, no phone, no proof. But she was leaving alive. She was leaving with her baby, and she was going to find out exactly what Bennett had done. Dorothy's house smelled like cinnamon and safety. Caroline stood in the entryway, taking it in. Small rooms with worn furniture, family photos on every surface. The quilt her grandmother had made draped over the back of the couch. Nothing matched. Nothing was expensive. Everything was loved. Come sit down. Dorothy guided her to the kitchen, the same kitchen where Caroline had done her homework, eaten her after-school snacks, cried over her first heartbreak. You need to eat something. I'm not hungry. You're 8 months pregnant. The baby is hungry even if you're not. Dorothy made soup, the recipe from Caroline's grandmother. Carrots cut in perfect circles. Noodles soft but not mushy. She set the bowl in front of her daughter and waited. Caroline ate. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first spoonful. At the estate, Maria prepared gourmet meals according to Bennett's specifications. Low sodium, low fat, appropriate portion sizes, food as fuel, not comfort. This soup tasted like home. Tell me everything, Dorothy said, from the beginning. So Caroline did. Not just the accident and the emails. Everything. 6 years of Bennett. How they'd met at a charity event 3 months after her father's funeral. How he'd seemed so stable, so certain, so capable of taking care of her when she was drowning in grief. How quickly they'd gotten engaged. How he'd insisted on handling all the wedding planning because she was still fragile from losing her dad. How the control had crept in slowly. So slowly, she hadn't noticed until it was everywhere. He chose my friends, Carolyn said. Said my college roommates were toxic influences. He chose my clothes. Said he wanted me to represent the family properly. He chose what I ate, how I spent my time, whether I worked or didn't work. You had your interior design business. He convinced me to close it, said it was causing me too much stress. That's why I had the first miscarriage, he said. Too much stress from trying to run a business while being a proper wife. Dorothy's face was carefully neutral, the face of a nurse who'd heard terrible things and learned not to react. 3 miscarriages, Dorothy said. Before this pregnancy? Yes. And during each of those pregnancies, what was happening? What kind of stress were you under? Carolyn thought about it, really thought. The memories came reluctantly, like animals that had learned to hide. The first one, we'd had a fight. He threw a glass at the wall, said I was embarrassing him in front of his colleagues. I'd made a joke at a dinner party that he didn't find funny. Did the glass hit you? No, just the wall, but I was scared, really scared. A week later, I started bleeding. Dorothy nodded slowly. The second? He'd convinced me to stop seeing my friends, said they were distracting me from my responsibilities as his wife. I was isolated, alone in that huge house, depressed probably. I lost the baby at 11 weeks. And the third? Carolyn's voice dropped to a whisper. He'd made me close my business, said I needed to focus on getting pregnant, on being a mother. Nothing else mattered. I felt like I was disappearing, like there was nothing left of me except what he wanted me to be. Dorothy reached across the table, took her daughter's hands. And this pregnancy, this one that survived? Caroline looked down at her belly, 32 weeks. 8 months of growing a life inside her while her own life crumbled around her. This one, I stopped caring what he thought. I stopped trying to be perfect. I started taking walks by myself even when he didn't approve. I called you more often, even when he complained. I read books he hadn't chosen. I existed, Mom, for the first time in 5 years. I just existed. And the baby thrived. Yes, Dorothy squeezed her hands. Carrie, honey, what I'm about to say is going to be hard to hear, but I need to say it. What? Those miscarriages, the stress he put you under, the isolation, the control, the fear. He wasn't just being a difficult husband. He was systematically breaking you down. And when you got pregnant, when there was something he couldn't control, Caroline felt the blood drain from her face. You think he caused the miscarriages? I think stress can end pregnancies. I've seen it happen. And I think a man who would pour water on icy steps to make his pregnant wife fall is capable of many terrible things. The words landed like stones, heavy, undeniable. I was so stupid, Carolyn whispered. All those years, all those signs. I didn't see any of it. You weren't stupid. You were grieving. You were vulnerable. He targeted you precisely because of that. But the signs were there from the very first date. Dorothy waited. He ordered for me, Carolyn said, at the restaurant. Didn't ask what I wanted, just told the waiter what I'd be having. I thought it was romantic, confident, a man who took charge. And now? Now I know it was the first test, to see if I'd object, if I'd have my own opinion, and I didn't. I smiled and ate what he ordered and said thank you. Carolyn pushed back from the table, walked to the window. The snow was falling outside, soft and silent. I need to see that security footage, she said. I need to know exactly what he did. How? You said he wiped the backup drives. He thinks he did, but there might be another copy. The head of security, Graham Finley. Bennett trusts him completely, but Bennett trusts everyone who does what he says, and Graham has been acting strange around me for months, avoiding eye contact, leaving rooms when I enter. You think he knows something? I think he knows everything. The question is whether he'll tell me. The next morning, Caroline made a call, not from her mother's landline, from a burner phone Dorothy had bought at the gas station. Finley. Graham, it's Caroline Ashworth. A long pause. When Graham spoke again, his voice was different, lower, tighter. Mrs. Ashworth, are you all right? I'm fine. I'm at my mother's house. I need to speak with you. In person. Somewhere private. Another pause. She could almost hear him thinking, calculating. The coffee shop on Main Street, he said finally. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Come alone. I will. Mrs. Ashworth, I'm glad you called. I've been wanting to. There are things you should know, things I should have told you a long time ago. He hung up before she could respond. Main Street coffee was warm and crowded. College students with laptops, young mothers with strollers, business people grabbing lattes on their way to work. Normal life happening all around her while her own life fell apart. Caroline sat in the back corner, decaf tea in front of her, watching the door. Graham Finley arrived at exactly 9. He was a tall man, mid-40s, the kind of controlled movement that spoke of military training. He scanned the room before approaching, sat with his back to the wall facing the entrance. "Thank you for meeting me, Carol. I should have reached out sooner." Graham's jaw was tight, his hands wrapped around his coffee cup like he was holding onto a lifeline. "I've known about Mr. Ashworth for years, what he is, what he's capable of. I told myself it wasn't my business, that I was just doing my job. And now? Now I watched security footage of him trying to murder his pregnant wife, and I couldn't stay silent anymore." Caroline's heart stopped. "You have the footage?" Graham slid a USB drive across the table. Small, black, unremarkable. "He thinks he wiped everything. But I keep backup copies, off-site, old habit from my time in military intelligence." Graham's eyes met hers, dark, haunted. "What's on there will answer all your questions. But Mrs. Ashworth, I need to warn you. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The man you married, the man you thought you knew. He's not who you think he is. I'm beginning to understand that." "No." Graham leaned forward. "You don't. Not yet. But you will." Carolyn took the USB drive. It felt heavy in her palm, heavy with truth. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Graham was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "My sister, her name was Lisa. Her husband was like Mr. Ashworth, charming, successful. Everyone loved him. She tried to leave him 3 times. The 3rd time he found out where she was hiding. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to." "I'm sorry," Caroline whispered. "Don't be sorry. Be careful. Men like Bennett don't accept losing. They don't accept being exposed. If he finds out you have this footage, if he realizes you're building a case against him, what? Then you become a problem that needs to be solved. And we've already seen how he solves problems." Back at Dorothy's house, kitchen table, Graham had left his laptop for her to use. A laptop that wasn't connected to Bennett or his network or anything he could track. Caroline inserted the USB drive. Her mother stood behind her, hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to watch this alone," Dorothy said. "I know, but I need to see it. All of it." The folder contained multiple files, time-stamped, organized. Graham was thorough. Caroline clicked the first file. December 17th, 5:14. The footage aid showed the front of the house. Gray winter light. Empty steps. Then Bennett appeared, coming from the side entrance, carrying a bucket. Caroline leaned closer. "What is he?" Bennett walked to the front steps, looked around, checked over his shoulder, then slowly, methodically poured water across the stone steps. Not splashing, controlled, covering each step evenly. The water spread thin, invisible once it froze. He went back inside. The timestamp read 5:17 p.m. Dorothy's grip tightened on Caroline's shoulder. "Oh my God." Caroline couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Her husband, the father of her child, pouring water on the steps, creating ice, creating a trap for her. She clicked the next file, 5:43 p.m., Bennett outside again, this time with a bag of salt, but he didn't spread it on the steps. He salted the walkway leading to the garage, the path the staff would use, keeping them safe, keeping only the front steps dangerous, only the steps his pregnant wife would use. The next file, 6:52 p.m. Carolyn saw herself on screen, walking from Bennett's car toward the house, moving slowly, hand on her belly, 8 months pregnant, tired from the holiday shopping Bennett had insisted she do, alone without the driver. He'd said Collins was sick that day. She watched herself grip the railing, take careful steps. The ice was invisible by then, frozen solid in the December cold. She didn't know, couldn't have known. Bennett appeared behind her, not beside her, behind. Carolyn watched herself take another step. Then Bennett's foot moved forward. Quick, deliberate, caught her ankle. She fell forward, arms flailing, hit the ice exactly where he'd poured the water. And then Bennett stood there, watching her. She wasn't moving, face down on the frozen steps, his pregnant wife. And he took out his phone, Not to call for help. He checked something, typed, put the phone away, looked at his watch. Caroline counted on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 30 seconds. 30 full seconds of watching her lie motionless on the ice. Then he started shouting, "Help! Someone help! My wife fell! Call an ambulance!" The performance began. Carolyn pushed back from the table, ran to the bathroom, vomited until there was nothing left. She sat on the cold bathroom floor, tiles pressing into her legs, baby kicking frantically, responding to her distress. Dorothy knocked softly. "Carrie, honey." "He planned it." Her voice didn't sound like her own. Flat, cold, dead. Hours before, he poured water on the steps, made sure the staff path was salted, sent Collins home so I'd have to walk alone. Then he followed me out and kicked my feet out from under me. "I know. He tried to kill me, Mom. Kill us." Her hand went to her belly. He watched me lie there for 30 seconds before he pretended to care. Dorothy opened the door, knelt beside her daughter, held her. "What kind of person does that?" Carolyn whispered. "To his wife? To his baby?" A monster in an expensive suit." The tears came then, not soft crying, deep, wrenching key that shook her whole body. Grief and rage and terror all mixed together. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of believing his lies. 5 years of shrinking herself to fit inside his life. And all along, he'd been waiting for the right moment to throw her away. But somewhere in that storm of emotion, something else emerged. Cold, crystalline, clear. Not just grief, not just fear. Fury. The fury of a mother whose child had been threatened. The fury of a woman who finally saw the truth. The fury that transforms victims into warriors. She wiped her face, stood up, looked at herself in the mirror. "I'm going to destroy him," she said. Dorothy nodded. "What do you need?" "A lawyer, the best one. Someone who's not afraid of money or power or men who think they're untouchable." "I know someone. Marcus Webb. He was a prosecutor for years before going private. He put away men like Bennett for a living. Now he takes them apart in civil court." Carolyn looked at her mother. "How do you know a lawyer like that?" Dorothy's face was hard, determined. "Because when your father was alive, we talked about what we'd do if anything ever happened. If you ever needed help getting away from someone dangerous. We never told you, but we saw things early on. Things that worried us." "Dad knew?" "He suspected. He wanted to say something, but I convinced him to wait, to let you figure it out yourself." Dorothy's voice cracked. "I've regretted that every day since. Maybe if we'd spoken up sooner, it wouldn't have mattered." Carolyn touched her mother's face. "I wouldn't have listened. I was too deep in it, too committed to believing the lie. And now I'm ready to fight." Marcus Webb's office was on the 43rd floor of a downtown high-rise. Glass walls, skyline views, the kind of place that screamed money and power and success. Caroline almost turned back at the elevator. Who was she to be here? A housewife with no job, no money, no resources. A woman who'd let herself be controlled for 5 years without fighting back. But then she thought of the footage. 30 seconds. Her husband watching her lie motionless, checking his phone. She walked in. Marcus Webb was not what she expected. Mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, kind eyes that turned sharp when he focused. He wore an expensive suit, but it sat on him like an afterthought. A man who cared more about results than appearances. "Mrs. Ashworth." He shook her hand, firm but not crushing. "Please, sit." She sat, told him everything, showed him the footage on the laptop Graham had provided, watched his face as he watched her husband pour water on the steps. Trip her, check his phone. Marcus's expression didn't change, but his hands curled into fists on his desk. "How long have you been married?" he asked. 5 years. "Children?" "This one." Her hand went to her belly. "Due in 6 weeks. "Previous pregnancies?" 3 miscarriages. Before this one." Marcus wrote something down. "Were you under unusual stress during those pregnancies?" She thought about it. The fights, the isolation, the control. "Yes," she whispered. "I was under a lot of stress." Marcus nodded slowly. Mrs. Ashworth, I'm going to be direct with you. What you have here is attempted murder. Clear as day. The footage shows premeditation, the salted staff path, the unsalted front steps, the deliberate trip, the delayed response. This is not an accident. Then he'll go to prison. Possibly, but probably not. Marcus leaned back. Men like Bennett Ashworth don't go to prison. They have lawyers on retainer worth more than my annual revenue. They have connections, friends in high places, character witnesses lined up around the block. So there's nothing I can do? I didn't say that. Marcus smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a man who enjoyed difficult challenges. Criminal court is one battlefield. Civil court is another. In civil court, the burden of proof is lower. And in civil court, we don't just get justice. We get everything. Everything? His company, his assets, his reputation. Everything he values more than he ever valued you. Caroline felt something shift inside her. Hope. Actual hope. How do we start? With money. Tell me about your finances. Joint accounts? Separate accounts? Do you know what your husband is worth? He handles all the money. I have a credit card, an allowance. I don't even know how to access our accounts. Marcus's eyes sharpened. Financial abuse. Classic pattern. He wrote more notes. Here's what's going to happen. I'm bringing in a forensic accountant. We're going to find every hidden asset, every offshore account, every dollar he's tried to bury. And then we're going to take it all. Can you really do that? Mrs. Ashworth. Marcus leaned forward. I put away murderers for 15 years as a prosecutor. Then I realized the real criminals wear suits and hide behind prenups. Your husband tried to kill you and your unborn child on camera. By the time I'm done with him, he won't have enough money left to buy a cup of coffee. 3 days later, the forensic accountant delivered her report. Her name was Barbara Chen. Sharp-featured, no nonsense, the kind of woman who saw through lies the way other people saw through windows. Let's start with the life insurance, Barbara said. Papers spread across the conference table. Charts, graphs, numbers that made Caroline's head spin. Your husband took out a policy on you 8 months ago, right after you announced the pregnancy. I didn't know about any policy. You wouldn't. He forged your signature. Barbara slid a document across the table. $12 million. Beneficiary, Bennett Ashworth directly, not in trust for the child. Him, personally. $12 million. That's what her life was worth to him. There's more. Barbara pulled out another folder. When you married, your name was added to several company accounts. Standard for a spouse. But 3 years ago, your name was quietly removed, along with your stake in the company. What stake? When you married, you were granted 15% ownership in Ashworth Technologies. Part of the prenup you signed, it was supposed to be your security, your protection. Carolyn remembered the prenup, pages of legal language. Bennett's lawyer had explained it so fast. She'd signed because she loved him, because she trusted him. I don't own any part of the company. Exactly, because 3 years ago, your shares were transferred to Bennett with a signature that claims to be yours. Barbara held up another document. According to our handwriting expert, this is a forgery. You didn't sign this. How much are those shares worth? At current valuation? $43 million. The room tilted. Caroline gripped the table. And there's more. Marcus took over. We found offshore accounts. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, money hidden from tax authorities. From you. From everyone. Conservative estimate, another $20 million. $83 million. Her husband had stolen $83 million from her, forged her signature, taken out insurance on her life, and then tried to kill her. One more thing. Marcus hesitated, glanced at Barbara, back at Caroline. This will be difficult, but you need to know. Tell me. We tracked unusual payments, regular transfers to a real estate LLC. The LLC owns a condominium in Manhattan, worth $2 million, purchased 18 months ago. Who lives there? Marcus slid a photo across the table. A young woman with auburn hair and a bright smile. Vivian Mercer, your husband's executive assistant. Carolyn stared at the photo. She knew Vivian, had met her at company events, always so professional, so friendly, always finding reasons to touch Bennett's arm. "Is that wonderful, Mrs. Ashworth? You look amazing." "There's something else." Marcus's voice was gentle. "According to medical records obtained through legal discovery, Vivian Mercer is currently pregnant. 4 months." The room went silent. 4 months pregnant. Bennett's assistant. 4 months ago, Caroline had been 4 months pregnant too. Bennett knew he was going to be a father twice, with two different women. "He was going to replace me." The words came out hollow, empty. "Kill me, take the insurance money, marry her, raise their child with my money." "That appears to be the plan." Carolyn stood up, walked to the window. 43 floors above the city, people moving below like ants, living their normal lives, unaware that above them, a woman was learning her entire marriage had been a murder plot. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we file," Marcus said. "Emergency protective order, divorce petition, criminal referral to the district attorney's office. We freeze every asset we can find, and we prepare for war." Carolyn turned. Her reflection in the glass looked like a stranger, pale, hollow-eyed, 8 months pregnant by a man who wanted her dead. But underneath the exhaustion, something burned. That cold fury, that crystalline rage. "Do it," she said. "File everything. And Marcus, one more thing." "What's that?" "Vivian. She's in danger too, isn't she? Once I'm on and the insurance is paid, she becomes a liability. Someone who knows too much." Marcus and Barbara exchanged looks. "Possibly," Marcus said. "Probably, actually. Men like Bennett don't leave loose ends." "Then warn her. Anonymous tip. Whatever you need to do. She's carrying a child too. She deserves to know what he really is." "That's very generous of you." "It's not generous." Carolyn picked up her coat. "It's strategic. A scared mistress with evidence could be our best witness." Marcus smiled, that predator's smile. "Mrs. Ashworth, I think you and I are going to work very well together." That night, back at her mother's house, Caroline lay in her childhood bed. The baby was restless, turning and stretching. "I deserve better than this," she whispered. "You deserve better than this. A father who doesn't want to murder your mother. Since you can't have that, you'll have a mother who survived, who fought, who refused to disappear." The baby kicked, strong, certain, a promise between them. Tomorrow the war would begin. But tonight, for just a few hours, Caroline let herself grieve. Not for Bennett, for the woman she'd been. The trusting, hopeful woman who'd believed in love and safety and happily ever after. That woman was gone now. Something stronger was taking her place. Something that wouldn't break. The next weeks were a blur of motion. Filings, depositions, emergency hearings. Caroline moved through it all like a machine, doing what needed to be done. Bennett was served with divorce papers at his office, in front of his board of directors. Marcus had arranged it deliberately. The first crack in Bennett's carefully constructed image. His response was immediate, vicious. "You ungrateful bitch." His voice on the phone was ice cold. "After everything I've done for you, everything I've given you, this is how you repay me? I'm repaying you for trying to kill me." A pause, then a laugh, low and dark. "Kill you, is that what you think happened? Sweetheart, you fell. On ice, because you're clumsy and pregnant and not watching where you're going. Whatever fantasy your mother and that ambulance chaser lawyer have put in your head." "I have the footage, Bennett." Silence, a complete silence. "Graham kept backups," Carolyn continued. "Off-site. I've seen everything. You pouring the water, salting the staff path, but not the front steps, kicking my feet out from under me, checking your phone while I lay unconscious. All of it." More silence. She could hear him breathing, could almost hear him thinking. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, colder, harder. "You have no idea what you've started. Neither do you." She hung up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice had been steady. That was something. Bennett's counterattack came within 48 hours. First, the lawyers. An army of them. Filing motions, requesting delays, challenging every piece of evidence. The divorce that should have been straightforward turned into a legal war. Then the PR campaign. Anonymous tips to gossip sites. Tech CEO's pregnant wife having mental breakdown, claims abuse. Old photos of Caroline looking tired or distressed, reframed as evidence of instability. Comment sections filled with attacks. Gold digger, attention seeker, crazy pregnant woman. Don't read them, Dorothy said, taking the phone from Caroline's hands. They don't know you. They don't know the truth. But everyone else believes them. Not everyone. The people who matter know who you are. But the damage was done. Caroline's former friends, the ones Bennett had approved of, stopped calling. The ones he'd driven away years ago were too distant to reach. She was isolated again, just like he wanted. And then there was Sloan. Bennett's mother arrived at Dorothy's house unannounced on a Tuesday afternoon. A black Mercedes in the driveway. Chanel suit. Pearls. The picture of Connecticut society. May I come in? Her voice was pleasant. Her eyes were not. Dorothy blocked the doorway. You're not welcome here. I'm not here to cause trouble. I simply want to speak with my daughter-in-law. Surely that's not too much to ask. Caroline appeared behind her mother. Let her in, Mom. I want to hear what she has to say. They sat in the living room. Dorothy's comfortable furniture suddenly looked shabby compared to Sloane's polish. That was deliberate, Carolyn knew. Everything about Sloane was deliberate. I'll be direct, Sloane said. This situation has gotten out of hand. Bennett made a mistake. He knows that. But destroying him won't make things better. It will only hurt everyone. He tried to kill me. He lost his temper, made a poor decision. He's not perfect, Caroline. No one is. He poured water on the steps hours in advance. He salted the staff path and left the front steps dangerous. He waited 30 seconds after I fell before calling for help. That's not losing his temper. That's premeditated, attempted murder. Sloane's expression didn't change. I'm prepared to offer you $3 million. In exchange, you sign a non-disclosure agreement, drop all charges, claim you misremembered due to the head injury. Misremembered being deliberately tripped by my husband? People forget things all the time, especially after trauma. Sloane leaned forward. Think about your child, Caroline. Do you want her growing up with her father in prison? With the Ashworth name destroyed, $3 million is more than enough to start over. Take it. Move on with your life. Carolyn stood up, walked to the door, opened it. Get out. You're making a mistake. No, I made my mistake 5 years ago when I married your son. Now I'm fixing it. Sloane gathered her purse, rose with dignity, paused at the door. You think you've won something here. You think you're being strong. But Bennett has resources you can't imagine, connections you don't know about. This won't end the way you think it will. Maybe not, but it will end. And your son will finally face consequences for what he's done. Sloane's eyes went flat, cold, the same eyes Bennett got when he was truly angry. You'll regret this, she said. Then she was gone. The Mercedes disappeared down the street. Caroline closed the door and leaned against it. Are you okay? Dorothy asked. I'm fine. She touched her belly. The baby was quiet, resting. $3 million. That's what she thinks my life is worth. That's what she thinks would make me forget her son tried to murder me. It's a lot of money. It's nothing compared to what he stole from me, what he tried to take. Caroline straightened. I'm done being quiet. I'm done being reasonable. Bennett wanted a war. He's going to get one. A week later, Vivian Mercer called. Caroline almost didn't answer. An unknown number. Could be a reporter, a process server, anyone, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Ashworth, this is Vivian Mercer. Please don't hang up. Why shouldn't I? Because I have information about Bennett, about what he's planning, and her voice cracked. I'm scared. They met at a lawyer's office, neutral ground. Vivian looked different from the polished professional Caroline remembered. Thin, pale, dark circles under her eyes. 5 months pregnant now, starting to show. I didn't know, Vivian said. Her hands twisted in her lap. I swear I didn't know. He told me you were abusive, that you were threatening him, that you had mental problems, and he was afraid you'd hurt the baby. I believed him. And now? Now I've seen the footage. My lawyer showed me what he did to you on those steps. Tears streamed down her face. I realized that could have been me. That probably will be me eventually. Once I become inconvenient. Caroline should have felt satisfaction, vindication. But looking at this woman, pregnant and terrified and trapped in the same web she'd escaped, she felt only recognition. What do you want, Vivian? I want to help. I have texts, emails, voice recordings. Bennett talks to me. He told me things about you, about the insurance, about his plans. I recorded some of it. Why? Because I'm not stupid. Vivian wiped her eyes. I knew something was wrong. The way he talked about you. So cold, so calculating. I started recording just in case, and then after I saw what he did, she shuddered. I'm not going to be his next victim. Not me. Not my baby. Carolyn studied her. This woman who had slept with her husband, who had helped destroy her marriage, who was carrying another man's child. She should hate her. Part of her did, but a bigger part recognized a fellow survivor. Give your recordings to my lawyer, Caroline said. All of them. Testify in court. Tell the truth about who Bennett really is. You'd accept my help after everything? I'd accept help from the devil himself if it meant putting Bennett away. Carolyn stood. But Vivian, after this is over, I never want to see you again. We're not friends. We're not allies. We're two women who made the mistake of loving the same monster. That's all. Vivian nodded. I understand. Good. Now let's destroy him together. The evidence mounted. Vivian's recordings, Graham's footage, financial records showing years of fraud and theft. The case against Bennett became overwhelming, but Bennett wasn't finished fighting. He filed a motion for custody, Marcus said. His voice was tight, controlled. He's claiming you're mentally unstable and unfit to be a mother. On what grounds? The same PR campaign he's been running. The mental breakdown narrative. He's gotten 3 psychiatrists to submit declarations saying your claims of abuse are delusional. Psychiatrists who've never even met me? They're basing their opinions on Bennett's version of events and on reports from his mother and various friends who've observed your erratic behavior over the years. Carolyn felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the panic that had been her constant companion for 5 years. She's crazy. She's unstable. She's imagining things. How many times had she believed that about herself? Can he win? No, Marcus was certain. We have the footage. We have the financial fraud. We have Vivian's testimony. But he can drag this out, make it ugly, make it public, make your life hell while he does it. He's already done that. What's he going to do next, kill me again? She meant it as dark humor, but Marcus didn't laugh. Be careful, Caroline, seriously. Men like Bennett, when they realize they're going to lose, sometimes they decide if they can't win, no one can. That night, Caroline couldn't sleep. She lay in her childhood bed, hand on her belly, listening to the house settle around her. The baby was due in 3 weeks. 3 weeks until her daughter arrived. 3 weeks until everything changed again. She thought about Bennett, the man she'd married, the man she had loved. Had any of it been real? Had there been a single genuine moment in 5 years? She searched her memories. The wedding day, his hand in hers, the vows he'd spoken. I will protect you from every storm. He'd been lying, even then, even at the altar. The whole thing had been a performance. And she'd believed every word. At 2 a.m, she got up, went to the kitchen, made tea, sat at the table where she'd done homework as a child, where she'd eaten her mother's soup after the accident, where her whole life had unraveled and then started rebuilding itself. The house was quiet, snow falling outside, everything peaceful. But inside her head, the storm was raging. What if they don't believe me? What if Bennett wins? What if I lose my daughter to a man who tried to murder us both? The thoughts spiraled, darker and darker. She could feel herself falling into the abyss. And then the baby kicked. Strong, insistent, demanding. I know, Carolyn whispered. I know. I can't fall apart. You need me to be strong. She took a breath, then another, forced herself to focus on what was real, the warmth of the tea, the softness of the chair, the movement of her daughter inside her. I'm scared, she admitted, to the baby, to herself, to the empty kitchen. I'm so scared. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? No answer. Just the snow falling, the clock ticking, the baby turning, but somehow in the silence, something shifted. She wasn't strong because she wasn't scared. She was strong because she was terrified and she was still fighting. That was enough. It had to be enough. The next morning, Dr. Townsend called. Caroline, I need to see you today. There's been a development. At the office, Caroline sat on the examination table, paper gown, cold room, waiting. Dr. Townsend came in with a file. Her face was serious. I've been subpoenaed, she said. Bennett's lawyers want me to testify about your mental state during pregnancy. They're implying that the fall caused psychological damage, that you're not in your right mind. And what are you going to tell them? The truth. Dr. Townsend sat down, took Caroline's hands. I've been your doctor for 8 months. I've seen you at every appointment. You are not mentally unstable. You are not delusional. You are a woman who was assaulted by her husband and is now being attacked again through the legal system. They won't like that. I don't care what they like. Dr. Townsend's eyes were fierce. I became a doctor to help people, to tell the truth. And the truth is the bruises I saw after your accident were not consistent with a forward fall. Someone tripped you. Someone hurt you deliberately. And I will say that on the stand. For the first time in weeks, Caroline felt something other than fear. She felt hope. The custody hearing was scheduled for February 15th, 2 weeks away. The baby was due February 1st. What if I go into labor during the hearing? Caroline asked Marcus. Then we postpone, but ideally you'll have the baby first, rest, recover, then face Bennett in court. Ideally. When has anything about this case been ideal? Fair point. The days crawled by. Caroline nested obsessively, washing baby clothes, arranging the nursery Dorothy had set up in the spare bedroom, buying diapers and bottles and tiny socks. Normal mother activities. As if her life wasn't about to implode, Bennett continued his campaign. More articles, more concerned friends speaking to the press, more character assassination. Carolyn stopped reading, stopped caring. Let Marcus and his team handle the public relations battle. She had more important things to focus on, like staying alive, like keeping her daughter safe, like surviving long enough to see Bennett face justice. On January 30th, 2 days before her due date, the district attorney's office announced charges. Bennett Ashworth was being indicted for assault with intent to cause serious bodily harm. If convicted, he faced up to 15 years in prison. The news broke everywhere: CNN, Fox, local stations, national papers. The charming tech CEO revealed as an attempted murderer. Bennett released a statement through his lawyers, denied everything, called it a witch hunt, accused Caroline of fabricating evidence. But the footage didn't lie, and now the whole world had seen it. That night, Caroline sat with her mother and watched the news coverage. Reporters analyzing the footage frame by frame, legal experts discussing the case, victims' advocates talking about domestic violence and the importance of believing survivors. It's really happening, Caroline said. People believe me. The truth has a way of coming out eventually. Dorothy squeezed her hand. Your father would be so proud of you. I wish he was here. He is, in his own way. Caroline touched her belly. The baby was quiet, resting up for what was coming. Soon, she whispered. Soon you'll be here, and then everything will be different. She didn't know how right she was. February 1st, her due date. Nothing happened. February 2nd, still nothing. The baby seemed content to stay where she was, safely cocooned inside her mother. First babies often come late, Dr. Townsend said. Don't worry, she'll arrive when she's ready. Easy for her to say. She didn't have a court date in 2 weeks and a homicidal ex-husband trying to take custody of her child. February 5th, still waiting. February 8th, Carolyn started having contractions, irregular, mild, false labor, the books called it. Braxton Hicks, practice runs. Your body is getting ready, her mother said. It won't be long now. But the waiting was agony. Every hour felt like a day. Every day felt like a week. Time stretched and compressed in ways that made no sense. And the fear grew. not of labor, not of childbirth. Carolyn had been through enough that physical pain didn't frighten her anymore. The fear was deeper, more fundamental. What if something goes wrong? What if the baby isn't healthy? What if I'm not a good mother? What if I can't protect her from him? The doubts circled like vultures, waiting to devour whatever hope she had left. February 10th, midnight. Caroline woke from a nightmare. Bennett was there in her dreams, reaching for the baby, pulling her away, laughing that cold laugh. She sat up in bed, heart pounding, sheets soaked with sweat. It was just a dream, she told herself. Just a dream. But it didn't feel like just a dream. It felt like a warning. She got up, walked to the window. The street was dark and quiet, snow on the ground, everything peaceful. But peace was an illusion. She knew that now. Somewhere out there, Bennett was planning his next move. His lawyers were building their case. His PR team was crafting their narrative. The machine of his money and power was grinding toward her, ready to crush everything she'd fought for. And she was here, alone, pregnant, waiting. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered to the darkness. I don't know if I'm strong enough. No answer, just the silence, the cold, the weight of everything pressing down on her. She walked to the bathroom, turned on the light, looked at herself in the mirror. Pale face, dark circles, huge belly. She looked like a ghost of the woman she'd once been. Who are you? She asked her reflection. Who are you anymore? The woman in the mirror didn't answer. She just stared back with hollow eyes. Carolyn gripped the sink, felt the cold porcelain against her palms. Real, solid. You're Caroline Brennan, she said out loud. Not Ashworth. Brennan, the name your father gave you. The name you were born with. The woman in the mirror didn't look convinced. You survived 5 years with a monster. You survived an attempted murder. You survived when everyone told you that you were crazy. You survived. Still nothing. Just that hollow stare. And you're going to keep surviving. For her. Her hand went to her belly. For your daughter. For every woman who ever believed a man who told her she was imagining things. Something flickered in her eyes. Not hope, not strength, but something. Determination, maybe. Or just stubbornness. The refusal to give up even when everything seemed lost. You're not alone, she told herself. Mom is here. Marcus is here. Even Graham and Vivian. People believe you. People are fighting for you. The tears came then, not sobs, just silent tears running down her face. I'm so tired, she whispered. I'm so tired of being scared, of being strong, of pretending everything's okay when it's not. She let herself cry. Let the tears fall. Let the fear and exhaustion and grief wash through her. And then, when the tears stopped, she washed her face, dried her hands, looked at herself one more time. Tomorrow, she said, tomorrow I'll be stronger. Tonight, I'm allowed to fall apart. She went back to bed, pulled the covers up, closed her eyes. The baby kicked, gentle this time, like a reassurance. I know, Carolyn whispered. We'll get through this, together. Sleep came eventually, fitful and broken, but it came. And in the morning she got up and kept fighting. February 12th, 3 days before the custody hearing. Caroline sat in Marcus's conference room surrounded by papers and files and evidence. So much evidence. 5 years of Bennett's crimes laid out in black and white. Walk me through the testimony again, Marcus said. I'll describe the pattern of control, Caroline recited. The financial abuse, the isolation, the gradual erasure of my identity. Then I'll describe the night of the accident, what I remember, what the footage shows. And when Bennett's lawyers cross-examine, I stay calm. I don't let them rattle me. I stick to the facts. Good, Marcus nodded. What about when they bring up your mental instability? I acknowledge that I've been under enormous stress. I point out that any woman whose husband tried to murder her would be stressed. I don't apologize for my emotions. I don't minimize what happened. Perfect. They'd been through this a dozen times. The questions, the answers, the strategies. Carolyn felt like an actress rehearsing for a play, except this play was her life. There's one more thing, Marcus said. Vivian is ready to testify. She's still willing? More than willing, she's angry. Bennett dropped her the moment the story went public. Stopped paying for the apartment. Stopped taking her calls. She's got nothing left to lose. What will she say? Everything, the affair, the plan to replace you, the conversations about handling the situation with his wife. She recorded a lot more than we initially thought. How damaging is it? Marcus smiled, that predator's smile she'd come to recognize. It's devastating. Bennett told her things he never should have told anyone. About the insurance policy, about wanting to simplify his life, about how much easier everything would be if you weren't in the picture. Carolyn felt cold. Even now, after everything, hearing the details still shocked her. He really was going to kill me. Yes, and now the whole world is going to know exactly who Bennett Ashworth really is. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Graham Finley called. Mrs. Ashworth, I have something for you. They met at the same coffee shop where this had all started. Graham looked different, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. I'm resigning from Ashworth Technologies, he said, effective immediately. But before I go, I wanted to give you this. He slid a folder across the table. Carolyn opened it. Inside were statements. Signed statements from Maria Martinez, the housekeeper, from Tom Collins, the driver, from 3 other members of staff. They've all seen things, Graham said, things they were afraid to talk about while they were still employed. But I reached out, explained what was happening, asked if they'd be willing to tell the truth. Carolyn read through the statements, Maria describing how Bennett would lock Caroline in the bedroom when she misbehaved. Collins describing driving Bennett to Vivian's apartment multiple times a week. A groundskeeper describing strange late-night activities. Items being burned in the outdoor fireplace. A housekeeper describing blood on sheets that Bennett insisted were from a nosebleed. This is incredible, Carolyn said. Why did they agree to talk? Because they're good people who are working for a bad man, and because they want to help you. Graham paused. We all do. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, just win. Put him away, make sure he never hurts anyone again. Carolyn gathered the papers, held them tight. Graham, what you did, keeping the footage, coming forward, you saved my life. You saved your own life, Mrs. Ashworth. I just gave you the tools. February 14th, Valentine's Day, the day before the custody hearing. Caroline spent the day in final preparations, reviewing testimony, preparing documents, trying not to throw up from nerves. At 8 p.m., her water broke. Mom! Caroline stood in a puddle in the kitchen. Mom, I think it's time. Dorothy appeared, took one look, grabbed her car keys. Hospital. Now. The drive was a blur. Contractions started in the car. Mild at first, then stronger. By the time they reached Greenwich Memorial, Caroline was gripping the door handle and breathing through clenched teeth. Mrs. Ashworth, a nurse met them with a wheelchair. Dr. Townsend is on her way. Let's get you checked in. The next hours were a haze of pain and pressure and endless waiting. The contractions grew stronger, closer together. Carolyn lost track of time. You're doing great, Dorothy said. She held her daughter's hand through every contraction. You're so strong, so brave. I don't feel brave. Carolyn gasped as another wave hit. I feel like I'm dying. You're not dying. You're giving birth. It's the most powerful thing a woman can do. At 2 a.m., Dr. Townsend arrived. Well, Mrs. Ashworth, your daughter has perfect timing. 1 day before your court date. Is she okay? Let's find out. Dr. Townsend examined her. You're fully dilated. It's time to push. The next hour was the hardest thing Caroline had ever done. Harder than surviving Bennett. Harder than confronting the truth. Harder than rebuilding her entire life. But at 3:17 a.m. on February 15th, Eleanor Dorothy Ashworth came into the world. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, perfect, healthy, screaming with fury at being evicted from her warm cocoon. She's beautiful, Dorothy said, tears streaming down her face. Oh, Carrie, she's perfect. Carolyn held her daughter for the first time. This tiny person she'd fought so hard to protect. This life she'd nearly lost. This miracle. Hi, baby. she whispered. I'm your mom, and I'm going to keep you safe, no matter what. I promise. Eleanor stopped crying, opened her eyes, looked at her mother with that unfocused newborn gaze, and Caroline felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete. Marcus arrived at the hospital at 8 a.m. I heard you were busy last night, he said, looking at the baby in Caroline's arms. She has excellent timing. Clearly, he sat in the chair beside her bed. We can postpone the hearing. No judge would blame you. No. Caroline, you gave birth 6 hours ago. You need rest. I've rested enough. She looked at Eleanor, sleeping peacefully now. Bennett has had 5 years of control. He's had months to prepare his defense. He's had every advantage money can buy. He doesn't get one more day. Marcus studied her, saw something in her eyes. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. Then we need to move. Court starts at 9. The courthouse was a circus, reporters everywhere, cameras, shouted questions. Carolyn made her way through with her mother on one side and Marcus on the other. Eleanor stayed at the hospital with a nurse. Safe, protected. Inside, the courtroom was full. Spectators, press, Bennett's legal team taking up an entire table, and Bennett himself. He looked different, tired, older. The charming mask had cracked. Underneath, Carolyn could see the real him, the cold, calculating predator who had tried to kill her. Their eyes met across the room. He smiled. That same charming smile he'd used 1,000 times. It didn't work anymore. Carolyn took her seat, straightened her spine, ignored the ache in her body, the exhaustion pulling at her. All rise. The Honorable Patricia Holloway presiding. Judge Holloway was in her late 50s, sharp-eyed, no nonsense. She'd spent 30 years on the bench and had a reputation for cutting through legal theatrics to find the truth. Be seated. She reviewed the papers in front of her. This is a custody hearing regarding the minor child Eleanor Dorothy Ashworth, born February 15th. Mrs. Ashworth, I understand you gave birth approximately 6 hours ago. Yes, Your Honor. And you still wish to proceed? Yes, Your Honor. I've been waiting 5 years for justice. A few more hours of discomfort won't change that. Judge Holloway nodded. Something like respect flickered in her eyes. Very well, Mr. Webb. You may proceed with opening arguments. Marcus stood, buttoned his jacket, walked to the center of the room. Your Honor, what we're going to present today is a story of systematic abuse, financial fraud, and attempted murder. We will show that Bennett Ashworth is not only unfit to have custody of his daughter, but should be spending the rest of his life in prison. He presented the evidence, the security footage, the forged documents, the insurance policy, Vivian's recordings, the staff testimonies. Layer by layer, he built a picture of Bennett's true nature. When he finished, the courtroom was silent. Bennett's lawyer stood. Jonathan Price, expensive suit, silver tongue, the best defense money could buy. Your Honor, what we've witnessed here today is a coordinated attack on a successful businessman by a disturbed woman and her enabling attorney. Mrs. Ashworth has a documented history of mental instability. Objection. Marcus was on his feet. No such history exists. Mr. Price is referring to declarations from psychiatrists who have never examined Mrs. Ashworth. Sustained. Mr. Price, unless you have actual medical records documenting mental illness, please move on. Price adjusted his approach, tried to poke holes in the evidence, suggested the footage had been doctored, claimed the financial documents were misinterpreted. But every argument fell flat. The evidence was too strong. The truth was too clear. Then it was time for testimony. Caroline took the stand, swore to tell the truth, sat down facing the room full of people who would decide her future. Marcus led her through the story, the marriage, the control, the isolation, the night of the fall. She told it all, calmly, clearly, without breaking down. And what do you remember from the moments before you fell? Marcus asked. I remember walking to the house, being careful because it was icy. I remember Bennett behind me, not beside me, and I remember feeling something hit my ankle. Then I was falling. Did you slip? No, I was pushed, tripped, deliberately. Cross-examination was brutal. Price tried every trick. suggested she was confused, traumatized, mistaken. Isn't it possible, he said smoothly, that your husband was trying to catch you? That his foot catching your ankle was an accident? Carolyn looked at him, then at Bennett, then at Judge Holloway. I have a question for you, Mr. Price. If your wife fell on ice, would you check your phone for 30 seconds before calling for help? Silence. Would you pour water on the steps 2 hours earlier to make sure the ice was thick enough? More silence. Maalsandang. Would you salt every path except the one your pregnant wife would use? Price opened his mouth, closed it. I didn't think so. Carolyn turned back to the judge. Your Honor, I'm not confused. I'm not traumatized. I'm a woman who was married to a man who tried to murder her. The evidence speaks for itself. Vivian testified next, pale and nervous but determined. She played the recordings. Bennett's voice, clear and unmistakable. Once she's gone, everything will be simpler. The insurance money is more than enough to start fresh. You and me, our baby, a clean slate. And what about her baby? Vivian's voice on the recording asked. What about it? It'll be with her. Problem solved. The courtroom gasped. Even Judge Holloway's professional composure cracked for a moment. Your Honor, Marcus said, I think we've heard enough. Bennett took the stand last. His lawyers had tried to prevent it, but his arrogance wouldn't allow him to stay silent. It was a mistake. Under Marcus's cross-examination, his composure crumbled. The charm faded. The cold, calculating man underneath emerged. You poured water on those steps, Marcus said. I was doing yard work. At 5 in the evening, in December, in the dark? I don't remember the exact time. You salted every path except the front steps. I ran out of salt. Security footage shows you carrying a full bag of salt to the garage path after you'd already left the front steps untouched. Bennett's jaw tightened. The footage is misleading. Is it? Is the footage of you standing over your unconscious, pregnant wife for 30 seconds while checking your phone also misleading? I was in shock. You were in shock, but you had the presence of mind to check your phone and type something? I don't remember. Do you remember telling Vivian Mercer that once your wife was gone, everything would be simpler? Bennett's mask finally cracked. This is a witch hunt. My wife is crazy. She's manipulated everyone into believing her lies. I never... Mr. Ashworth, Judge Holloway cut him off. You will answer the questions directly or I will hold you in contempt. Bennett fell silent. His face was red. His hands were shaking. For the first time, Carolyn saw him for what he really was. Not powerful, not in control, just a small, angry man whose carefully constructed world was falling apart. The closing arguments were brief. The evidence spoke for itself. Judge Holloway called a 30-minute recess to consider her ruling. Caroline sat in the doorway. Her body ached. Her breasts throbbed. Her baby was waiting for her at the hospital. Whatever happens, Dorothy said, I'm proud of you. I know, Mom. Your father is proud too, wherever he is. I know. The door opened. The bailiff called them back in. Judge Holloway waited until everyone was seated. Then she spoke. In my 32 years on the bench, I have rarely seen evidence as compelling and disturbing as what has been presented in this case. She detailed her findings, point by point, the footage, the financial fraud, the insurance policy, the recordings. Bennett Ashworth, you used your wealth and power to control and ultimately attempt to murder your pregnant wife. You forged documents. You committed fraud. You showed no remorse and no regard for human life. She turned to Caroline. Mrs. Ashworth, you have shown extraordinary courage in coming forward, in fighting for yourself and your daughter, despite overwhelming odds. Then the ruling. I am granting full custody of minor child Eleanor Dorothy Ashworth to her mother, Caroline Brennan Ashworth. Bennett Ashworth is prohibited from any contact with the child or her mother. Caroline felt tears streaming down her face. Furthermore, based on the evidence of financial fraud and theft, I am awarding Mrs. Ashworth 100% of the marital assets, including Bennett Ashworth's 43% stake in Ashworth Technologies. Bennett's lawyers jumped to their feet. Objections. Protests. Judge Holloway silenced them with a look. This court finds that the evidence presented warrants the maximum possible remedy. Mrs. Ashworth was systematically robbed of her autonomy, her financial security, and nearly her life. This ruling attempts to restore what was taken. She turned to Bennett one last time. Mr. Ashworth, the criminal charges against you will be heard separately, but I will be recommending to my colleagues that bail be revoked. You are a danger to society, and especially to the woman you once promised to protect. The gavel came down. Court is adjourned. 6 months later, Carolyn stood in the kitchen of her new house, watching Eleanor splash in a baby pool on the patio. 6 months old now, chubby cheeks, her father's dark hair but her mother's blue eyes. The house was small, 3 bedrooms, a garden, nothing like the estate, everything like home. Dorothy appeared at the screen door. Coffee's ready. Thanks, Mom. They sat on the porch, watched Eleanor discover the joy of water. Her delighted squeals filled the summer air. Bennett's appeal was denied, Dorothy said. I saw it on the news this morning. I know, Marcus called. How do you feel? Caroline considered the question. 6 months ago, she would have expected to feel triumph, vindication, justice finally served. What she actually felt was peace. I feel like it's over, she said. Finally, really over. Bennett had been convicted. 10 years in federal prison for assault with intent to cause serious bodily harm. Additional charges for fraud. By the time he got out, Eleanor would be a teenager, and Caroline would be free. The company was hers now, or rather the board was hers. She'd surprised everyone by being good at it. Better than Bennett, actually. Without his ego and paranoia holding things back, Ashworth Technologies was thriving. But she didn't spend all her time in boardrooms. She'd learned something important in the last 6 months. Life was more than achievement, more than success, more than proving yourself to people who didn't matter. Life was Eleanor's first smile, Dorothy's chicken soup, walks in the garden, friends who call just to talk, quiet evenings with a book and a glass of wine. Life was being present, being real, being herself. I've been thinking, Carolyn said. About what? About the other women, the ones still trapped, the ones who don't have security footage or lawyers or mothers who believe them. What about them? I want to help them, use some of the money from the settlement, start a foundation, something that provides legal help and housing and support for women escaping abusive situations. Dorothy smiled. Your father would love that. I know. Eleanor squealed again. A butterfly had landed on the edge of the pool. She watched it with wide-eyed, wondering eyes. She's going to be okay, Dorothy said. Yes, she is. Carolyn thought about the woman she'd been, the one who apologized constantly, who shrank herself to fit, who mistook control for love and fear for devotion. That woman was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who knew her own worth, who spoke her own truth, who refused to be diminished by anyone ever again. Mom? Yes? Thank you for believing me, for fighting with me, for never giving up. Dorothy reached over, squeezed her hand. That's what mothers do. We protect our children, no matter what. Carolyn looked at Eleanor, this tiny person who had changed everything, who had given her the strength to fight when she'd wanted to give up. Yes, she said, we do. 1 year later, first snow of the season. Carolyn carried Eleanor down the front steps of their house, careful on the ice, always careful now, but not afraid, never afraid. Eleanor reached for a snowflake, caught it on her mitten, watched it melt. Snow, her favorite word lately. Everything was snow, rain was snow, clouds were snow, bath bubbles were snow. That's right, baby, snow. They walked through the garden, past the bare rose bushes, past the swing set Caroline had installed in the spring, past the bench where she sat in the evenings, watching the sunset. The house was decorated for Christmas, lights on the porch, a wreath on the door. Inside, a tree that Caroline and Eleanor had decorated together, crooked ornaments, too much tinsel. Perfect. Dorothy was coming for dinner, the first Christmas in the new house, the first Christmas of their new life. Mama? Yes, baby? Eleanor pointed at the sky. A single star, early and bright. Star. That's right, a star. You can wish on it if you want. Caroline thought about wishes. The wishes she'd made as a young woman. For love, for safety, for a family. She'd gotten all of those things. Just not the way she'd expected. Wish, Eleanor said. She closed her eyes tight, scrunched up her face in concentration. Caroline didn't ask what she wished for. Some things were meant to be private, even at 1 year old. Come on, baby, let's go inside. Grandma will be here soon. She carried her daughter up the steps, into the warm house, into the life she'd built from the ashes of the one that had burned down, the life she'd chosen, the life she deserved. In the kitchen, she put Eleanor in her high chair, started preparing dinner. The radio played soft Christmas music. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering everything in white. A blank page, a fresh start. Caroline looked at her daughter, at the steam rising from the pot on the stove, at the lights twinkling on the tree. We made it, she whispered. Eleanor banged her spoon on the tray. Mama, food! Caroline laughed, a real laugh, the kind she'd forgotten she was capable of. Coming right up, Your Majesty. The doorbell rang. Dorothy arrived with arms full of presents. Merry Christmas. Grandma, Eleanor reached for her. There's my girl. Dorothy scooped her up, covered her in kisses. Caroline watched them, her mother and her daughter, 2 generations of strong women, the past and the future, connected by love. Dinner's almost ready, she said. It smells wonderful. Dorothy settled Eleanor on her hip. You know, your father used to cook for me on Christmas. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, but it was the best meal of the year because he made it with love. I remember. He'd be so proud of you, Carrie. Everything you've done. Everything you've become. I know, Mom, I know. They sat down to dinner. Caroline, Dorothy, Eleanor. 3 generations at the table. No ghosts, no shadows, no fear. Just family. After dinner, they opened presents. Eleanor got more toys than any 1-year-old could possibly need. Dorothy got a scarf Caroline had knitted herself, crooked stitches and all. Caroline got a framed photograph, her parents on their wedding day. Young, happy, full of hope. I found it in the attic, Dorothy said. I thought you should have it. Caroline held the photo, touched her father's face through the glass. Thank you, Mom. He's watching over you, both of you, always. Later that night, after Dorothy had gone home and Eleanor was asleep, Caroline sat by the window. The snow had stopped. The world outside was white and silent. She thought about everything that had brought her here. The pain, the fear, the moments she'd wanted to give up. She thought about Bennett, somewhere in a prison cell, stripped of his power, his money, his control. Still claiming innocence, still believing he'd done nothing wrong. She didn't hate him anymore. Hate was exhausting. Hate was a prison of its own. What she felt now was something simpler, stronger, freedom. Freedom from the lies she'd believed. Freedom from the woman she'd pretended to be. Freedom to be herself finally, completely without apology. She looked at the star Eleanor had pointed to earlier, still visible through the window, bright and steady. I made it, she said to no one. To everyone. To herself, the star didn't answer. It just kept shining. Caroline smiled, got up, turned off the lights. Tomorrow there would be more challenges, more battles, more growth. But tonight there was peace. She walked to Eleanor's room, stood in the doorway, watched her daughter sleep. Sweet dreams, baby girl, she whispered. Tomorrow we start again. Then she went to bed, and for the first time in years she slept without fear. And that's the story of Caroline Ashworth, a woman who refused to stay silent, who fought for herself and her daughter when everything was stacked against her. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What moment hit you the hardest? What would you have done in her shoes? And if you haven't already, tap that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss another story. Every like, every share, every comment helps more people find these stories. Stories about women who survive, women who fight back, women who win. Thank you for staying until the end. It means the world to me. I'll see you in the next one.